Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Football, it began simple enough. Line up 11 men on one side, 11 on the other. The team with the ball is the offense. The team without it is the defense. Snap the ball, you run, you collide, and you tackle. But now football is much more. No longer just a game of brawn, it's also a game of brains. This is Bear Necessities.
Good morning, Barflies Barroom Network. Welcome to Bear Necessities. I'm your host, Jordan T. Silveira. It's 11:02 a.m. Pacific Coast time. I guess that would be 1 p.m. Central time, and of course, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much for joining me today. As per usual for Bear Necessities, we're just going to go ahead and go over a little bit of the matchup this upcoming tomorrow, this game for the Houston Texans, Lovie's return to Soldier Field. As well as what I have to let you know, this is going to be a little bit shorter of a show. I'm planning for about an hour to maybe an hour 15 tops. I appreciate you joining. Feel free to interact in the chat. I will try to get to them. We're going to do a little bit of Texans review. I'll answer any questions you have regarding Chicago Bears versus Green Bay Packers, or even the 49ers game. We can just use that time to talk. But just going to break down a little bit of Texans film from this last game, just to show you a few tendencies and then give you the rest of the time. So without that out of the way, let's just go ahead and hit off on the, I guess you could say, the to-dos, pay the bills. Go ahead and like the channel, subscribe, follow Aldo Gandia at Aldo Barkeeper on Twitter, myself, Jordan T. Silveira on Twitter, and then Barroom Network at Barroom Network on Twitter. Make sure you turn on the notification bell, all that fun stuff. So thank you so much for joining me. Ravi, Saturday shows, yes. You are not a huge college football guy. I am. So this is partially why I want to make it quick so I can get to some of the college games, because everybody that originally probably got to know me a little bit first realized that above all else, I was a scout by large accounts. I like to scout and get to know players and their tendencies and how they play. So, yeah, anyways, Tureen, bear down, of course. Thank you so much for tuning in. Joe, hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in, brother. I appreciate it. With that said, I'm good. I like staying on top of the comments, so we're good. Comments are caught up. Let's just jump right into the tape. Like I said, we're going to try to fit it all into about an hour here. Okay, so showing you this a little bit here. Everybody should be able to see it. If for some reason you struggle at any point, just go ahead and let me know, and I will go ahead and adjust it. Up until then, though, let's get into it. So here we have and you'll see it, I've labeled it here. Oh, let me move this just a little. Labeled it here, the Houston D tackling on an end around. Before I get started here, I like to keep interacting. Chubbs, what do you have to say? You said, knows how Eddie Jackson talked about setting edges. Remember? Yeah, no, Chubbs, actually, I don't know how much you've been following me. I'm not a huge Eddie Jackson fan. I shouldn't say that. I'm a fan of Eddie Jackson, but I've been incredibly harsh upon him, considering just the last years since 2018, going back to Chuck Pagano's time. Don't feel like he properly acquitted himself. Always felt like he lacked a willingness to tackle. Takeaways are gone. You're paid a lot of money. You need to produce. I have very little to complain about, because this is all I've ever asked of Eddie Jackson. Show me a willingness to hit. Show me that you're not afraid to do the dirty work. Yes, all of the turnovers are important. They're extra critical to what his skill set is, and like that pick on Trey Lance and so many others where he takes them back. I know he's had so many called back, so he would say, I do get turnovers. But the reality is, I'm a believer, and this is where I really respect people like Robert Schmitz over at Windy City Gridiron, a few others, Brandon Robinson, that they love themselves some Eddie Jackson, but I am really a believer in the fundamental ideas behind football. So traditionally speaking, you go back to Pop Warner, the understanding is that, hey, tackle. Above all else, yes, we'll get into the fundamentals, the X's and O's, but I need you to make sure you wrap up and tackle. And to me, that is a basic level of football that needs to be understood throughout every single player on defense, including safeties and DBs. And so to me, I am excited and happy to see that he's starting to fit the run now. No concerns. You were saying the defensive ends and corners have to maintain the edge. We can't rely. Yeah, absolutely. They do need to set the edge. And so there was a lot of issues. Now, to be clear, and I don't want to get into too much of a scuttle back and forth here, Chuz, because I do want to get into the film. But I'm a believer that, yes, absolutely, everybody needs to do their job. Defensive ends and corners have to maintain the edge. But as you're saying, we can't rely on our inside linebackers to run to the outside. Well, yes, it's not how our defense works. But guess what? When somebody else fails, you need to spill and fill. And they didn't do that. So anyways, okay. So this is the Houston defense dealing with an end around. The reason I've highlighted this play as one that we should pay attention to is this is something that I've mentioned over the past couple weeks. I'm okay if you want to run the ball and take the air out of it as the Chicago Bears offense and Luke Getsy. But outside of just sticking to under center runs, maybe an occasional shotgun draw, things of that sort that we've seen, I'd really like to see them expand that catalog of run plays. That includes some QB-designed runs. I'll show you a little bit of that here, even from the Texans. But just importantly, too, we've seen in the preseason a willingness or a desire to run end-arounds. I know EQ took one of them. I know Pettis may have done that. So this is just an example of, hey, there's a tendency here that we may be able to exploit, and I'm hoping if I see this, then I'm surely hoping Luke Getsy sees it. So let's just go ahead and let it roll through, and then I'll talk about it with you. A little motion there, fake the dive. And then we have 12 here, which I'm trying to remember who 12 is. Was it Washington? Either way, you can see that here. I mean, again, we'll just roll it real quick. You can see that. Look at this. I mean, and fine, we'll start it slow. I'm sorry, I'm rusty today. It's been a hard week. Okay, so let's go through it. You have your motion coming across here, and I guess I'll draw this up for you real quick. So they're going to essentially motion. Oops, come on, computer. They're going to motion a guy across the formation here, trying to get these linebackers to seek across. Then they're going to try and create a little more of a mismatch by running this this running back here, Melvin Gordon, it looks like, on a dive with a SIF block across here. This is going to look like split zone to the linebackers. So if they even are flowing here, or even if they aren't, they're then going to want to flow downhill to try and stop that dive. What happens in the interim? Well, then we end up getting a nice SIF block out here. This wide receiver gets to try to block down and find traffic. And then 12 comes around here. And then let's just watch how beautiful it comes together. And this is something that look, Nate Hackett, I know he's been getting a lot of flack, but I mean, look, Luke Getsy and Nate Hackett both came from Green Bay. If Nate Hackett can pull this off against this Lovie and Texans D, then why the hell can't Luke Getsy? So let's go ahead and show this. So I motion it across, and let's just look at that. You can see those linebackers start to flow. I mean, here, we're at the point where, and you have to remember, these offensive linemen here are causing a little bit of a blur for these linebackers to actually see through the traffic. So at this moment, all they're seeing is Russ's back. They don't know if the ball is here. They don't know if it's going here. This DB, Derek Stingley, has kind of a cone view to just view out here. Sure, he can kind of probably sense in his peripherals 12's coming back, but maybe this is a screen. You never know. So he's right to sit off of it. What we end up getting here, though, as we continue along is, oops, come on, computer. I told you I was rusty today. Okay. There's that SIF block coming through Andrew Beck, fitting up the D end. Now, he does a bad job, and this is where, I mean, I don't know, we'd hope Cole Kmet or Trevon Wesco or whoever's going to be in there since Ryan Griffin's going to be out. We would hope that they fit this up better, but this is a situation. Now, it's not even blocked well, but if we ended up blocking this off well, now you've got this whole wide open lane. But this is the beautiful part about this is even with a shitty block here, 12 still gets around. And then just watch how open this is. The reason I bring this up is if this is Darnell Mooney or Dante Pettis or even, Equanimous St. Brown, get some speed out there. Velus Jones, if he were to play, Imagine what this does, because this is an example. If you want to run the ball, you don't want to put the ball in the air through the pass with Justin, fine. But create some explosive plays in the run game. And this is how you end up seeing this, where that's the bad block, but watch how 12 gets around, does a good job leaning there. 57, I don't have the name off the top of my head. I want to say it's Grenard, but it's not Grenard. I forget the name. And you can see we're in totally chase and pursuit here. 55 is Jerry Hughes. We've got a lineman down the field, 66. I believe that's Dalton Reisner pushing back on 58. You've got Melvin Gordon, who was previously on the dive. He's now become your lead blocker. I mean, first off, credit to 6 here, is doing a good job. Then you have Melvin Gordon trying to seal off this alley. And when we see it, this is a perfect example. Look, they started on 1st and 10. We end up getting past the sticks and even further. You're talking about damn near a 20-some yard gain off of an end around. I mean, golly. So I'm sorry, I should have even tracked this. They start off back at the 35. By the time they come around, excuse me, am I saying 35? I mean 45. Excuse me. Ball's here. So 46, and they end up moving it back out to damn near the 20. I mean, so you're talking about a big gain there just off of an end around. I wanted to bring up that tendency because to me, I totally believe that is something that you can take advantage of and rip from Nate Hackett and this Broncos team to see if you can get those linebackers and that defense of Lovie over pursuing one way to then create the misdirection, to drag your receiver around on the end around and have, I mean, any running back you want, like have Monty faking the dive and then becoming your lead blocker there. It's cool. So let's pop back out here. And while we're at it, let me boot up another play. I did really want to, I guess we were talking a little bit about QB run. I'll just focus on the QB run game for a minute here. But while we do that, let me go ahead and see what you guys are saying here. Leo, you're saying thoughts on people saying that Kyler Gordon is down right now. I like the breakdown Baldy did. Leo, to be quite frank, this is nothing against Brian Baldinger. I think he does great work. I even agree with what he's saying, but I think he was incredibly selective about the clips he was showing. You mean to show me Kyler Gordon on the outside with his fantastic recovery, breaking up what would have been a touchdown pass? Absolutely. How can I argue with that? That's a big play. That's also similar to what he did in college. He did not have to play nickel. So, sure, you want to show me one of the better plays he had in a preferable position. Okay, well, that's selective to me. Then he decides to show you a play in a condensed formation where he's essentially playing inside at the nickel, and he fits the run well. Absolutely, good play. And this is where I say it's selective. It's not that they're not good plays, but I can show you 4, 5, 6 plays where he is getting pieced up trying to fit the run in the nickel, and Baldy wants to show me the one good one. So, to answer your question, my thoughts on people saying Kyler Gordon is down right now, I think he's got one of the hardest jobs on that defense and is being asked to somehow play outside and then jump inside on the drop of a dime. And then I don't necessarily believe that the personnel packages were the right plays either. You are asking your nickel corner, who I got to give Kyler Gordon a lot of credit. I think he's incredibly physical and is okay fitting the run. He's a good player. But you want to ask your rookie corner who's not played nickel before to line up as the overhang defender and fit the run on sift blocks coming from Mercedes Lewis, Josiah DeGuara, and A.J. Dillon? That doesn't work for me. I mean, let's go back to what football is at its basics. A linebacker is made for what? To stop a running back. That's about its equal counterpart. A receiver, what's their counterpart? A DB. Got it. Okay, tight end. Well, typically a safety. Well, what is Kyler Gordon? He's a cornerback. So you're now asking your cornerbacks to fit on running backs. A.J. Dillon, that's even a handful for most linebackers because of how much of a big bruiser he is. Then he's got to take on Josiah DeGuara, who's a tight end. Well, guess what? Kyler Gordon's not a safety. And Mercedes Lewis, who's a big, big Y. And all of a sudden you want Kyler Gordon to handle that. Like, he has been done no favors, Leo. And so to that point, I think he is going to bounce back. And I'm not even telling you to put him outside. I would have preferred he play outside. But that was before you decided to jettison Thomas Graham and cut Tavon Young from IR because you signed a player who's never been healthy, and you let guys like Justin Coleman and Desmond King, who's actually on the Texans, and boy, I'm trying to think, K'Wan Williams, who's on the Denver Broncos. You let all of these great nickel cornerbacks that signed for pennies on the dollar go so that you could put Kyler Gordon at nickel. Fine. I'm good with it. I want him to stay there because it's going to be a super bumpy ride. But this is the thing. If Kyler Gordon can be a player that learns how to play nickel like that and then all of a sudden drop outside the boundary and play that, and he acquits himself well in both, that's how you get a really good corner that's versatile. Because I'll give you an example. The Green Bay game from last year in Chicago, Jalen Johnson did a pretty good job on Devontae Adams. And then Matt LaFleur said, well, what if I just put Devontae Adams in the slot? And Jalen Johnson tried to follow him and got cooked. That's a problem of Jalen Johnson being able to play on the boundary as a great corner. And we know he is. He's playing on the boundary and doing an excellent job so far. But being asked to move inside to the hardest position on the defense got his ass burnt by one of the best receivers in the league. So I'm not mad for Kyler Gordon having struggles there. They are just going to have to be patient and ride with the fact that if he gets to where you want him to go, he becomes an incredibly valuable piece that can play outside and inside. This is how Kenny Moore was even used. Yes, he was your primary nickelback, but he would play outside because they didn't have a ton of corner depth prior to this year, where now they have Stephon Gilmore and a few other pieces, but it was Rock Ya-Sin and Kenny Moore, and then you had guys like Anthony Chesley and a few others. So I see what they're trying to build, but I don't think you're doing any favors to the kid, and this is just overreaction season where Bears fans all of a sudden want to throw, water on the career of Justin Fields and go, well, he's a bust. He's busting Fields because it's 2 games. Oh, man, Kyler Gordon sucks. And listen, I like myself George Pickens. I actually had Alec Pierce above him, and Alec Pierce hasn't done much in Indy, but I had him above just because I understood that there were some character concerns with George Pickens. But there's a belief now that, well, damn, did you see the catch that George Pickens has? It was beautiful, yes. We could have had him twice, but we picked Kyler Gordon. I agree. I think that a wide receiver probably would have been better value. It's not that one wide receiver fixes your wide receiver core, but a cornerback doesn't single-handedly fix your secondary depth either. As a matter of fact, I would argue that in order to fix your secondary, you have to have good safeties and good corners, because kind of what you're seeing now. Sure, Jalen Johnson can lock down his guy. Eddie Jackson can patrol the deep half. Brisker's somewhat of a nuisance. Maybe Kyler Gordon has a perfect rep. Well, then I'll just pick on Kindle Vildor. Oh, well, no, Vildor's good? Well, then I'll just find the weak spot. Oh, it's Kyler Gordon. It's easier to do that, in my opinion, than a wide receiver. You can scheme your wide receiver up, and this is why the nickel cornerback is so important nowadays. I can ask a receiver like Devontae Adams to win outside. Oh, man, they put Jalen Ramsey on him. I just can't do it. Well, I guess Jalen Ramsey's not a great example because guess what? Jalen Ramsey's a guy that goes inside and plays nickel just as well as he does outside. But, they put Jalen Johnson on him. Damn, our wide receivers kind of locked up out there. Nope, I'll just move him inside and ask the corner to follow him. Or he's bigger than their nickel corner, and now I've got a power advantage on him. This is an example of why I think a receiver would have been maybe a better example or a pick than Kyler Gordon. But the hay is in the barn. It is done now. So let's go ahead and move forward with it. I think he is a physical player that can fit the run, that you just need to give time to acclimate, if that makes sense. Sorry, I know that's a super long-winded answer, Leo, but I just think that a lot of people want to overreact to all of this at the moment. Joe, you're saying you could see Gordon getting an interception tomorrow. He's going up. Yeah, we'll see. It wouldn't shock me. And I'll show you that as we get into it, but I always like interacting with you all here. Cornelius, what's up? Bear down. Getsy hasn't been testing teams vertically and horizontal. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of currently over the play calling, but I also understand, and this is, again, not overreacting. Week 1 was in a monsoon. You were going to have a very hard time trying to pass the ball in those conditions. And then on offense in Green Bay, 1, it's hostile territory, but 2, you have to, and this is where I was preaching this on Bear Debate this week. If you haven't watched that, I had a good time talking with Lester Wolfong from Windy City Gridiron. Go ahead and tune into that after. It's only about an hour long. But in this situation, I think it's really important that Bears fans understand, where are the Chicago Bears in the trajectory of chasing a championship? Your answer is your answer. Go ahead and consider that. But then ask yourself that same question. Try to be honest. Where are the Buffalo Bills on that same trajectory of chasing a championship? Where are the LA Chargers? What about the Green Bay Packers or the Niners? Just go through a few of those teams and then try to really understand, well, was it fair to assume that we would be able to have Justin Fields throwing 400 yards and 5 touchdowns against that Green Bay team, that defense? I'm not even – look, I guess if you want to call me that, I'll pat myself on the back a little bit. I put out something months ago saying, could you tell me how the Chicago Bears will win any given play, whatever formation you want, when it's Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, who's the other one? Jerron Reed or Dean Lowry, whoever you prefer, Quay Walker, Devondre Campbell, Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, Eric Stokes, Adrian Amos, and Darnell Savage. Can you tell me a single formation or play that finds a way to win, considering the talent level of the Packers defense versus this offense? So to me, I'm not too surprised that, again, context is important, that they haven't been able to impress me with play calling, unfortunately. Yeah, I saw that, Jareen, because, and this is the whole problem, is I talk about monsoons and then conditions and, hostile territory in Green Bay. It just feels like the Bears are going to have, and it's okay, this is football, it's life, but it feels like for whatever reason, they can't just have a clean game where it's in, a dome and it's, 65, 75 degrees and it's fine. It just doesn't happen. And I guess we'll get that in Dallas when they go to Jerry World, and it's coming, but for now, it feels like it's just weather elements consistently being a factor. Joe, you were saying that's on Flus, and I saw this one come up. Oh, about the Kyler Gordon putting him in bad situation. Well, you got to remember, it's really more on Alan Williams. He's the defensive coordinator. But yeah, I'm not trying to tell you anything that you probably haven't already watched. And this is why we're doing Texans film, not Green Bay, because frankly, I think you can get Packers and Bears film in a variety of places. I don't want to waste your time with that. But you can go back and watch that Packers-Bears game, and they played base defense with Matt Adams out there. So that's 3 linebackers, 4 down linemen. And they tried to match that when they had the pony package, which was A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Or they tried to match it when they had what is kind of like, it's 12 personnel because it's 2 tight ends, but they were putting one of those tight ends in the backfield, and that was Josiah DeGuara playing that fullback role. And what happened is, the base defense was good to try to match the run, but then whether it was Aaron Rodgers checking out of it or otherwise, they would run a little RPO glance or something and get Kyler Gordon biting down on it, which I'm not saying that's his job or he shouldn't be blamed for that, but he's trying to bite down on the run to ensure that he's ready to face whatever's coming his way. And then what they would do is just run Sammy Watkins or Randall Cobb or whoever else, Alan Lazard, on these little glance routes, which is not new. This is what LaFleur did with Devontae Adams last year. And it would end up going over Gordon's head, and Adams is not quick enough to be there. Excuse me, and I'm saying Gordon. Forgive me. Yes, my mind is fried. Matt Adams is out there trying to cover these glance routes. That's base defense. So then what happened is they decided we can't play that well enough. It's good for the run, but bad for the pass. They're killing us on the pass. Let's put nickel in. So Gordon gets in. Adams is out. Gordon is now asked to fit the run and cover the pass. When he jumps on the run, Aaron Rodgers is throwing it over his head. When he plays back on the pass, he's not able to fit the run. It's good. To answer your question, is that on Eberflus or Alan Williams? Yes, but the other team gets paid too, and that's good personnel usage by Matt LaFleur. Yeah, you were saying Pickens was on the. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's sure, would I love a talent like George Pickens? Yes, but I also think I'm not even trying to be hyperbolic, but it's an example of he went to a team where Antonio Brown was kind of the same character, really talented, wasn't happy when things didn't go his way. He's probably in the team that thought that they could harness him, and we'll see. I think Mike Tomlin can harness the best of, outlandish characters. I don't necessarily think that would have been good in this offense. That's why I would have thought an Alec Pierce, but they wanted to fix up and shore up their secondary, and that's fine. Tareen, you're saying Joe Thomas was elevated. Yeah, they are looking for a Sam backer, and it's probably because they don't trust Sanborn or Weatherford to take that. I mean, they still may play Sanborn or Weatherford, but I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Thomas is your starting Sam for base defense. Notorious saying Bears need to run it down their throats. It'll give the defense off the field and give. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll go through it. Focus at all times should be winning games. No, I agree, Chubbs. They should be trying to win games. Jordan, what's up? Appreciate you tuning in. Chubbs, that's fine. That's probably a better way to put it. I'm to be very clear, I'm being a little picky. I don't think they've thrown enough screens out to the perimeter. They've tried a lot of halfback screens, and I like halfback screens. But if those aren't working or the teams are keying on them, maybe try to throw one out to the perimeter. And then when they did, they had a play where Darnell Mooney, and it was against the 49ers, and I know they tried it again in Green Bay, and Darnell Mooney lost 4 yards. But they had a play to Darnell Mooney, kind of like a bubble screen, and he was able to make a few guys miss and get some yards. Then they tried the same play in Green Bay, and it didn't work. Okay, well, maybe instead of a bubble, let's try a traditional flood screen where you have your wide receivers and linemen flushing out there, and you have your wide receiver waiting on the perimeter with a wave of guys ahead of him. Run a tunnel screen. Okay, you want to run QB power. I love QB power. Maybe not at the 1-inch line. Let's run it with a little more space. I like QB runs. Zone read is fine. What about some triple option? You have 2 really good backs. Look, this is the thing is I'd like to see them open it up more, and it's only been 2 games. So I'm being incredibly picky, but to your point, Chubbs, you are right. When Equanimous St. Brown is running down this field wide open, or you've got a one-on-one with Darnell Mooney and Eric Stokes, or Pettis is breaking free on a curl, or, Cole Kmet hits him in the numbers and he can't secure it, that's not the play calling. Getsy's doing a fine job there. The execution, as you're saying, isn't there. And so, yes, I think that there's a little truth in both sides of it. Okay. That was our little chat break. Let's get back to it. I talked about QB runs. I want to show this because, this is a 4-play sequence, so we'll just kind of show you it. First one is a Dameon Pierce run. I'll talk about this a little bit. Second one is a sprint out, which is how they'll use Davis Mills a little bit to get out on the edge. So some things to look for the Bears defense here. And then where I show you the zone read where they bring in Jeff Driscoll, their backup quarterback, and then a 22 personnel seam. So let's go ahead and show you this sequence. I'll let it play out a bit. We'll pause it after each play. Just want to show you Dameon Pierce because I know he gets a little bit of pickup throughout the league, but I want to show you. Just to me, I know it's convenient to say he's like David Montgomery, but I really want to show you that he is. I'm not saying he's David Montgomery, but it's just kind of funny that Lovie Smith's returning, former Bears coach. They've got 2 quarterbacks in their second year. Their rookie running back looks really similar to David Montgomery. They both run the same defense. I know that there's a lot of parallels, but it does just seem quite interesting. And I wanted to show this because, a couple things to note here. Kenyon Green, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think Kenyon Green is this guard right here. He's their rookie first rounder. Dameon Pierce, I believe, was a 4th or 5th rounder from Florida. They're going to run a little split zone here. So let's show that. Yeah, it's just a little split zone up the middle, but I just wanted to show you this because as we run it again, just his ability to explode through. Their run game isn't all that bad. I was a real big fan of Pep Hamilton, and I wanted Pep Hamilton as our offensive coordinator had that been an option. And you can see where he gets skinny here, avoids Bradley Chubb, then gets skinny in the hole. That's Randy Gregory, and still picks up solid yardage there. So as far as just a schematic view, you actually are going to have a SIF block here with your guard pulling up into the hole. And so once again, you're hoping to have these linebackers flush. Defense starts flying this way. And then you have Kenyon Green leading up a big hole here for Dameon Pierce to blast through. And it's not a huge game, but it's still a nice run and nice concept that they end up getting 8 yards or so off of. And Jeremy, I see in the chat, I appreciate you tuning in. Cornelius, you're saying since the Bears are supposed to be running Shanahan's offense and where the jet sweeps and orbit play. Cornelius, that's a good example. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like you, and this is, I'm going to be a little bit pedantic, but you want to sit here and hire the Kirkland or budget brand of the Shanahan offense, then I guess don't be surprised when you get the Kirkland or budget or diet version of that offense, where it's kind of close, but it just doesn't quite have that same taste. Well, yeah, it's kind of close, but we just don't quite have those jet sweeps or orbit screen. That's kind of par for the course. And I want to give Luke Getsy some room to breathe and find his way. But yeah, this is a problem with fans in general, is everybody wants Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan or Brian Daboll. And the reality is those guys aren't plentiful. There's not 7 of them on every corner. There's a reason why Sean McVay will probably be the Rams coach until he decides to stop coaching. And Kyle Shanahan, as much as he's had rocky starts, isn't just walking freely now that he's in San Francisco. So, I mean, that's something to consider. Joe, you're saying you have Alec Pierce on fantasy. Should you sit or start? Is he back from his concussion? I wouldn't know, Joe. I probably would pass on him if you have other options, but go ahead and let me know, and I'll try to help you out there. All right. And then this is a little sprint out. I'll let it play, and then you can watch it. I like this too because, well, one, it's a little bit of a gimmicky play from Pep, but I like it too because some of this is me showing you I like to watch other offenses. Oh, you're saying Dameon Pierce, not Alec. Oh, I think they're going to try to feed him the rock, but who are your other running back options? We'll get to my prediction at the end, but I don't totally. If you have better options, I would consider it. Jeremy, you're saying Jordan, is that a byproduct of Velus Jones being out? I would think. Yeah, I think he would probably be used on those, but then so Jeremy, and I'm not like lambasting you here. It's a really good question. Is that a byproduct of Velus Jones being out? I would think we'd have someone else to run those plays. So you and I are getting to the exact same point. If it is a problem that Velus was supposed to be that guy, well, then, damn, you should really have bigger concerns about your offensive play caller being so rigid that I can only open up this part of the playbook if this player's in the game. That's in some ways you can understand that. I don't want to throw goal line fades to 5'7", what's his name that went to the Browns, our punt returner, forgetting his name. But anyways, I don't want to throw goal line fades to small guys. I understand being a little rigid there. But, I don't want to run jet sweeps because Velus isn't it. Well, as you're saying, Dante Pettis and Darnell Mooney are quite speedy themselves. So, it's like I said, I'm trying my best not to overreact. But I also think it's totally fair to just judge what you have in 2 weeks. And that's where I'm trying to thread the needle of I think context is important. I think it's important to talk about what elements they've been dealing with the monsoon in San Francisco and then the talent level between Green Bay and Chicago. And some of this is par for the course in understanding it. But I also think it's fair to judge what you have to judge on. And these are concerns I have. Cornelius, you're saying hopefully this is the week that Lucas Patrick starts at center. I hope so too. I guess we'll see. Although I would tell you, I don't think Mustafa's been such a problem. And I know everybody will point out, oh man, Kenny Clark blew him up. Yeah, Kenny Clark's the top 3 to 5 nose tackle in the league. Again, this is just, you reap what you sow. Kenny Clark's a first-round pick out of UCLA. That's a top 3 to 5 at his position. Sam Mustafa's an undrafted free agent that's been really elevated to a better role, a starting role with, and to be fair, I think he's acquitted himself well for his position, but there's a reason he wasn't valued by teams to be taken in 7 serpentine rounds of drafting. Okay, so a little sprint out here. Some of this I tell you I watch other people's film because I just think you could incorporate some of this into Justin Fields' game. You've got a quarterback with 4.4 speed. Let's boot him out. It's a little bit of a gimmicky play, but I'll show you this. So this is all part of the package. Can we get those linebackers flowing? And so they're going to end up faking this. They're going to have a guard rolling out here, going to fake it here, but you're going to actually get Davis Mills out here. And then just a really, like I said, I don't want to say it's so gimmicky, but it's just a little crosser here, a little flat, and they drop it off here, hoping to get a one-on-one with a tight end in a corner and see if you can make something happen. So that is the play. Let's show you it. Okay. So you'll see it actually fakes like he's pulling. He fakes like he's pulling, and then 69, which I do believe is Kenyon Green, then locks up here to protect that backside from a free rusher getting into Davis Mills' lap. Fake the run. Pierce is there. I mean, this is partially what I wanted to talk about is this is what they're hoping to do, and I would hope that Luke Getsy tries the same thing because this is actually what beats. I guess we can get into a little bit of concepts here, and this talking a little bit about Green Bay and Chicago and this game with Houston. It's not everything, of course, but what helped beat the Bears to me was that, and your Chubbs, you're saying that was a terrible fake by the court. Yeah, it still gets them some yards, but yes, it's not beautiful. And I think some of that too is Davis Mills is not nearly the athlete that Justin Fields is. So I think he becomes more of a threat if you put Justin Fields in that role. But yes, point taken, I understand. I think like I said, it's not everything, but I think what beat the Bears defense last week, everybody says they didn't fit the run. They didn't stop the run. That's true. And Chubbs could talk about this a little bit because he was talking about setting the edge. But the way to really harm an attacking even front defense, a 4-3, the way that these single gap defenses that Lovie plays, Eberflus plays, even in some ways, I mean, to be fair, like people would say, how did the Bears get so many yards running against the Packers? The Packers kind of suffer through this too. If you can get a defensive line, and it's front seven, but traditionally it's defensive line. If you can get the defensive line to run laterally, as opposed to, and I even mean running down laterally, where if this is your line and you're pushing into it laterally, you're still creating an effect denting it. But if we can have you running laterally down the field and then ask you to flip your hips and change direction, that's a really hard ask for defensive linemen and linebackers in a front seven. So this is how they really took advantage of the Bears. And then vice versa, this is how the Bears took advantage of the Packers, because the Packers, while they play that up front, are very aggressive in their way that they attack. So in this scenario, and this is why I bring this up, you'll see this in Denver as I roll this play for you, but also it's what happens in Chicago. And if Chicago were smart, they would do the same to Lovie here this week. If you can get that defensive line pushing laterally, it opens up a whole backside of the play through cutbacks, through change of direction, through Justin Fields doing a little spin move and getting out on the corner. And that is really what helps this play. As Chubbs was saying, it's a bad fake and all that. But watch this defense as I roll it for you. And there's nothing on the backside but a one-on-one with a big tight end versus 23, which is Ronald Darby, a corner. This is what we talk about. A corner is supposed to match up with a receiver. Not a tight end, not a running back. It can happen, but you're not at a good odds advantage. And this is what happens here. And let me see. Chubbs, I saw that comment you were saying about terrible fake by the quarterback. Jordan, how do you counter teams that send their end straight up the field to prevent them from? Well, this is a problem. Like Cornelius, I brought this up last week when I showed it. This is how defenses are being coached now. If he's going to hand the ball off, fuck it. I guess we'll let him kill us for 3 to 4 yards. But I'd rather you send yourself after the quarterback just in case he tries to roll it out the back door. The reality is that, Cornelius, to your question, how do you counter that? Well, this is where you'll start to see they try to send Komet and these others on these sift blocks across the formation so that they are taking that DN so that when Fields comes back around on it, your tight end is blocking it. Other times, and then we saw this in the 49ers game, that I think it was Ebukam or maybe it was Amenahu, one of those guys, where Fields has to deal with the D end. His job is literally, we're not going to have anybody there for you. So when you turn your back around, do not be surprised when there's a D end 2 yards away rushing at you. You need to be an athlete and find a way to break free. So that's part of how you counter it. The other reality of it too, though, is beating the hell out of them and getting the ball on productive runs down the field to where they have to respect it. because that time that they tried to rush right up field at Justin Fields, the running back cut it right back into their lane. And now their coach is yelling at them about gap responsibility and discipline. And then after you're beating the hell out of him in the run game, then you pull Justin Fields back out, and he's a little more hesitant to do it because he got gashed earlier where he rushed up the field to Justin Fields and David Montgomery cut it back right off his gap. Hope that answers your question. Jordan, we faced some good teams through 2 weeks. How much do you think that will help now? I think it'll help a lot. And I mean, I promise I'm not trying to like hold the bait here about my prediction. I have the Bears winning, and I have them winning big. And some of that feels a little bit naive because I don't know the last time I think I've seen the Bears score a lot of points. But I also just think this is part of history kind of repeats itself. And Justin Fields, if I have a big issue with him, it's been a lack of consistency. And he very much plays a stellar game, one game, and then has another 2 or 3 middling games, maybe one bad game. And then 1 out of every 4 is a really big game. So I don't know. I just have a feeling that this is going to be a game that is big time. Nothing more than just, I guess, if you want to say that's fandom speaking. Mustafa bear down. Packers edge got blown out by our fullback. Yeah. You can bring the backside 10 off. Yeah, it's Chubbs, you and I are simpatico. It seems like we're talking about the same thing here. Nano, bear down, and you're saying you have the Bears 28-17. I appreciate it. I like the optimism. Okay. So try to wind it up here so you can see. I just want to show you here because the ball has just been snapped. It's right here. And watch as we scroll it or scrub it through. Watch those linebackers in that D end and even the secondary. Yes, it's a bad fake, but at this point, we've literally got this guy's trying to remain home, but we haven't even got the total fake on yet. He's flying. He's getting ready to flush over. He's getting ready to flush over. As we roll it through, you've got this one guy staying home, and it's because he feels this tight end. So fine, fair game to whoever this is here. But look at these other 3 here that are covering nobody. Nothing is out here. So now you've got this situation where you have gotten the defense to flush to one side of the field so that you can hit this backside tight end here. And that's why I say it feels a little gimmicky, but I don't care if it's gimmicky. It works, and you can see it here. When now the defense is starting to retreat back and go, oh, crap, it's a pass. And yes, Bradley Chubb's pressing down on Mills, but he knows, okay, I'll get it out there with a little bit of float in time so I don't get sacked. And he does put it, I don't want to say like a hospital or danger ball, but he puts his tight end in a position where he's about to get hit as soon as he catches it. Good catch by the tight end. It's Farrell Brown, I believe. Okay. And then as we roll here, this is Jeff Driscoll. So I want to show this because I would hope, if I'm seeing this, I would hope that the Bears are seeing this. Alan Williams is seeing this. They will actually take Davis Mills out and put in Jeff Driscoll. Jeff Driscoll is a quarterback that went to University of Florida. He's a quarterback, but he's actually tried to be a tight end at different points. He is not a real quarterback, at least in the NFL, by way of any meaningful matter. They may occasionally ask him to throw a ball, and he's capable of doing it. But he is the Trey Burton mold, the guy that played a little bit of quarterback in high school, or obviously in high school and college, and then in the NFL has been kind of a mix of tight end, quarterback. Driscoll's much more quarterback than tight end. Burton was obviously much more tight end than quarterback, but same kind of goal there. And they will actually pull Mills out of the game and put Driscoll in, and they'll run these little zone reads here. And so just let this play out for you, and you can watch it. And I bring it up because, I mean, it's none of these are huge, but it gets the necessary goal here. It's 3rd and 1. We need a yard. And however you want to view it, I guess in some ways you could say they don't trust Davis Mills. And Joe, you're actually bringing up a great point. Mills' accuracy is inconsistent. I'm going to show you that. But they don't trust Davis Mills in this offense to pick up 1 yard here. That's one way of viewing it. Or they just want to get a different look for the defense. But everybody knows that they want to get the ball to Dameon Pierce here. So they do this, and then they pull it, kind of a QB wrap here. They pull it out here. and he's able to pick up a few yards. So I would hope that the Bears are preparing for that, because clearly it's a package that they like to run with Driscoll and his skill set. As we break it down and see it, you can see, he does a good job pulling the ball back at the mesh point where he's able to kind of sense and feel this here. It's blocked up. And, this is what's amazing about it, is that it's actually a decent run fit by the defense. The linebacker's here to wall off anything up the middle. And you can see Chubb is kind of reading it. He's ready to crash down if it goes there, but he's trying to keep outside integrity to make sure that Driscoll doesn't bounce it out. And this is Driscoll just being a good athlete, where that little mesh point, you can see it's literally at that foot point. If you watch Chubb's feet, he bites too hard there. And at that point, Driscoll's a better athlete. You can try to take the right angle on me all you want, but I picked up a yard and more. And it's a good play call. Okay, and then let's see, Bear Truths in here, my California buddies. Those other players are reading screen pass. Yeah, Chubbs. This is the whole point, though. If you can get some of that misdirection on those sprint outs and things like that, it works. The thing you want to see from Fields, especially in this offense, is more precise movement and his drop back, and see that back foot set quicker. Yeah, I think Justin Fields is a work in progress. I think he has a lot of room to improve, Bear Truth, and hopefully this game shows a little more of that. Joe, you were saying Mills' accuracy is inconsistent. Absolutely. Maybe I'll show that to you next. This offense is a quick read offense. You should know the opening guy before snap. Yeah, timing is important, though, but you got to have that rapport to build that timing. Yep, Bear Truth, I agree. Okay. Rolling it along, this last play here is the 22 formation seam. They actually, this is why I kind of like Pep. Pep, I give him a lot of credit, and I'm a big fan of Pep Hamilton, their offensive coordinator. They just run a lot of different things. As far as tendencies overall, they would like to often run a little bit of they like to do a 3-by-1 where you'll have essentially 3 guys out here, and then they'll usually nub it up, and the nub formation is having just act like these guys aren't here. Or I guess if you want, you can push them out here, you can push them out here. This is the 3. And then the nub part is they'll have this one tight end. He's not even out on the boundary as like a traditional 3-by-1. They'll nub him into where he's in line, and then he can run posts here. He can run seams. He can run corners. He can run wheels. He can run flats. They can do a bunch of stuff with him there by putting him in that condensed look as the nub. And then just talking about why I appreciate Pep is the last play. This is why I wanted Pep. There's some zone read in there for Justin Fields. If he was the offensive coordinator, they're doing it with Jeff Driscoll. They like to run 11 personnel 3-by-1. A couple plays ago, they had a 2-by-1 11. Then they had the tight end in line. They're running the 22 personnel here, where you have a fullback, you have Damian Pierce. I believe this is Nico Collins, and then you have your tight end here, and you have Brevin Jordan, the other tight end, right here. And as we do this, I'll just let the play roll out for you. And as we talk about that accuracy, I don't want to say it's total accuracy. That's a damn good play by Alex Singleton, but I just like this because this is what they would call a shot play. They are selling the run here hard by bringing in 22 personnel. And maybe I'm wrong. Does it go to Collins? Let me play this once more. I thought it goes to the tight end. Oh, no, it goes to Collins. Okay. So it's weird. They actually do it, and I should have pulled the all 22 here, but they do a little scissors route where he runs the corner, he runs the post, and we're seeing whichever one the safety bites onto, you throw to the other. So safety goes outside first, playing outside in. He throws the post, and he's hoping to get it over Singleton's hands here, but Singleton's an athlete. So I like this play, though, just because it's a 22 personnel. They fake it, and then they actually take a shot down the seam. And so as you see it here, defense is – this is part of the issue, though. As you can see, defense isn't flying downhill to do it. Good on Denver and Ejiro Evero's team. They're not going, oh, crap, let's fill. Because if they step up too far, that's exactly how you hit it over the top. But they don't. And Mills actually has to get it out here. And this is part of showing you that offensive line. The Houston offensive line isn't perfect by any stretch. At this point, I believe that's Quessenberry at this point at center. And I think that's Justin Jones, who just completely bodies him. And Mills gets it out as we show it here. Yeah, Justin Jones, or not Justin Jones. What is his name? DJ Jones. Just completely does a hump move to Quessenberry here to shrug him off. And then he's basically, Mills has to throw it because he's about to get his ankles taken out by Jones. And as you see it here, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to say it's total inaccuracy. I think this is a better play by Singleton than it is by Mills. Bad play, but still, nonetheless, it's there. And I guess in some ways, let's call a spade a spade. Nico Collins is a big X. I would kill to have a guy like Nico Collins on the Bears offense. And he probably comes down with this. But 32 is about to light him up, so it's a little bit of a hospital ball. And then Mills does need to put the ball a little bit over. So his accuracy is a little suspect there. Okay. So that is that 4-play sequence. Talked a little bit about, I guess I have my goal line misses here to show you the inaccuracy, but before I do that, let me see here. Let me go back to your comments real quick. Jeremy, from what I've seen, Mills seems to be throwing on time, but the ball's a bit off. Curious how much is Mills. I see, Jeremy. This sounds like I'm negative or down on Davis Mills. I'm not. Davis Mills is a legit 5-star coming out of high school. Was hurt at Stanford. That's the reason he dropped. Didn't get a lot of games there, but he's got all the tools. To your point about he seems to be throwing on time, I agree. I don't necessarily think he is off schedule. Some of it is. Some of it's the offensive line breaking down, and he's got to just get it out sooner than he'd like. But it never quite feels like it's off schedule or off time. I think he's on time. But I do agree that some of the accuracy or the touch leaves a little bit to be desired. I don't think it's a physical limitation by him in any stretch of the imagination. I just think that some of it is him. It's rookie. It's early games, not that many starts mistakes of, I thought that this 49 from Denver, this Alex Singleton, wouldn't be able to get his hand up there enough. And it worked in practice against, Christian Kirksey, who's a little smaller, and I was able to duck it over his head, and that was no problem. And now he's facing that in real time. You were saying with the wide receiver just made a poor attempt to catch the ball. Absolutely. When you get time, can you give? Yes, I'll start that bare truth, and we'll go through it. For now, as I said, I was going to go an hour. We're at 53 minutes in. I love talking to you all that are here, so I appreciate it, but I'll try to get through these quick. This is just showing some of the ball security issues that Davis Mills has. So let's go here and show you this. I don't even want to say it's totally ball security, but it's a strip sack. And this is once again that AJ Can is 60. This is a beautiful bend and a beautiful play by, I believe it's Draymond Jones. But just watch this here. Beats the guard across. Clean beat on AJ Can. And then right there snaps the ball away. So, once more in real time. Just giving you kind of the broadcast angle, but as we watch this here, I tell you, because in some ways, if you want to talk about our defensive tackles, you would hope that they'd be able to get. I mean, the problem here is AJ Can is standing damn near straight up, and as he's trying to drop back in his pass set, and then at this point, because he's standing straight up, Draymond Jones just beats him outside with no leverage, and then is able to really snag that ball away from Davis Mills. Let's see. I mean, just look at that bend, too, as he's getting ready to fall down. Pulls it away. Good play. Okay. And then I guess we'll do one more before I have 2 more segments of Texans ball to talk about. Let this roll out for you. This is just a phenomenal play by the DB. So I got to give Christian Kirk, or I guess linebacker Christian Kirksey, some credit. I mean, just watch this as he steals the ball away. It's nuts. Play that slow-mo for you. It's a good ball by Russ, and then Cortland Sutton just gets big bank, take little bank. As Petrie, I mean, to Petrie's credit, is trying to put enough of a blow there to dislodge the ball. And then actually pulls the ball away. And they actually gave that to Houston. I guess you could argue that it looked like Sutton was down, but I think the way that they argued is that hands were on the balls as he was going down, never quite secured it, and the person that did secure it is Kirksey. So they actually gave that to Houston. But I want to show you this because of a couple things. One, it's the fact that when you consider this play, there's shot plays to be had where he's able to – oops, let me get this out of the way. Come on. There we go. He's able to run this seam bender where if this is Mooney or Equanimous or whoever you want, you can try to hit it over the top, and I think Fields has enough touch there to do it. And like I said, this really isn't Russ. This is more on Cortland Sutton here. It's a good ball, but then gets snagged away. I bring this up here because you'll find that I have a bit of a man crush on number 5, Jalen Petrie out of Baylor. Just a good player. They use him all over the defense. It's another tendency. You'll see Jalen Petrie all over the place. Also wanted to kind of point out John Grenard here. This is arguably their star defensive end. So go ahead and watch him here as we roll it back. Gets good pressure on the tackle, and I bring this up because this is going to be Braxton Jones dealing with him. I mean, look at this here. Does a good job getting Garrett Bowles. Garrett Bowles is a very good left tackle. Gets Garrett Bowles to overset and then cross his face and is right there on Russell as the throw is coming out. I mean, good rep by him. I mean, I guess we'll roll it slow. Bottom of your screen, 52. Garrett Bowles is legit. Oversets right there as soon as he opens up. Cool, dude. I'll fake to the outside and then push in and cross your face. So, good rep by him. Braxton Jones is going to have to deal with that, make sure he doesn't overset, and then it's just a crazy ball where Kirksey pulls it away. Yeah, I actually think I have that play, Jeremy. Yeah, it's funny because maybe we have a different opinion of it. It wasn't a bad ball. It's a good ball by him, but I argued it was a little bit of a maybe the accuracy or placement wasn't quite there. You think Gibson gets more reps this week? I hope so. I think Gibson's a legit player that should. Whether he does or not is a different story. And then before we get to, I guess I have to show you the other crush I have because you have to, again, this is part of it, like understand where the teams are coming from, understand where they're at in their trajectory of chasing a championship. I hate to be frank, but there's not a lot to pull from the Houston Texans film to be like, wow, they're legit. In the same way that, to be fair, I wouldn't look at the Bears game and look at any player and be like, wow, he's legit. So, I mean, they have a couple, but it's really not there. So understand that the little bit of hope or threat, in this case, if you're a Bears fan and you're looking at the Texans, it's not that I'm like, hey, man, this guy's awesome. I'm more of an NFL fan, so I certainly would agree he is awesome. But as a Bears fan, I would hope that you look at this and see the threat that a Jalen Petrie presents, or that a Damian Pierce, or that a Nico Collins. And in this case, to be clear, he wasn't even my cornerback 1. Sauce Gardner was. But Derek Stingley has not by any means had like a clean stretch. And this just goes to show you, for those that, Leo Factor asked in the beginning, is that fair for people to be down on Kyler Gordon? Kyler Gordon was a second-round pick who's starting at one of the hardest positions at nickel and playing corner. This is a guy that went first corner in the draft, top 5, and even he is having a hard time. And he is incredibly gifted. But I wanted to show you this 3-play sequence from Stingley because he ends up getting beat. But then I want to show you how well he recovers. And I tell you this because if Justin Fields wants to fuck around and find out with Derek Stingley, do not be surprised if Derek Stingley makes him pay. So let's go ahead and show you. Again, you're looking at top corner here, top of your screen. This is a little play action and then a deep shot. And it actually, I mean, he's playing in phase, but the issue here is that he actually decides to commit the PI. And he's waving it off like I got him, but you can't trying to trap the arm. And it's like, yeah, the ball's not there yet. So a bad play by him. Just cost the defense 40 yards. But watch again, he's at the top of your screen here. They decide, okay, he's a liability. Cortland Sutton on Stingley, we can pick on him. And these are back-to-back plays. So he gets the holding penalty or the pass interference, spot of the ball foul. Watch this. They go back to him 2 plays in a row. He ends up forcing a 4th and goal, take the field goal. Do a little goal line fade to him. And Stingley plays that. So they call it a touchdown, but it's actually not. Jeremy, you're saying he gets 2 hands. Yeah, he does, but it's okay. I mean, so is J.C. Horn. They learn it over time. So they call this a touchdown, but it's actually not. I like it because you can see him playing phase. He's got his eyes to the ball and then challenges Sutton at the catch point, fully extending. And Sutton's a baller receiver too, does get it in his hands, but as you can see, isn't able to track the feet down with the push from Stingley. It's a good play, recovering for his mistake earlier. And then they try him again after the play is overturned and it's not a touchdown. So let's go through here. Another goal line fade. And then you can just see he's like, no, you can keep picking on me, but I promise it's not going to work out for you. And by that time, it's 3rd and goal, and I think they try to run it or something, and it ends up being a field goal. So Derek Stingley paying off early, and then, well, sure, he can cover, but how is he setting the run? I mean, watch this. This is top of your – let me pull it back here, so I'll let you see it. But that's Cortland Sutton again, and that's Stingley just going. You can try Sutton on these little slice routes. And so the way that this looks is this is your wide receiver cutting across, and it's a little boot here where Wilson could try to drop it off here, and you end up seeing Stingley cover it man-to-man across, and he just lights him up and gives him a nice boom. So let's go ahead and show you that here. Just another nice play by Stingley. The recovery speed to not get caught in traffic and then just blow up Cortland Sutton there. Really nice play by the Rook. Okay, and then I believe it was Joe who was saying Mills's inaccuracy, and then Jeremy, I think this is the play you're talking about, which, like I said, I don't want to be too critical. I think, not that. I think it's decent accuracy, but this is when they get down to the goal in the 3rd quarter. And the broadcast is pointing out, and this is something that I guess Bears fans should be aware of too. This is what I'm saying. In many ways, I would kill for Justin Fields to have this core. It's not even the best wide receiving core, but you have a really big Nico Collins X receiver who attacks the catch point and wins. And then you have the ever shifty Brandon Cooks here, perennial 1,000-yard receiver. So this is going to be a little whip return routes, or China, if you will. So he's going to fake it in and then whip it out here. And you'll see that Mills just, in some ways, yes, if the ball hits the receiver's hands, he needs to catch it. But it doesn't really hit Brandon Cooks in a favorable position, and it ends up being dropped. So let's go ahead and play this for you here. Little play action fake. You can see Brandon Cooks selling that he's doing the drag and then whipping it out here on the China route. He's open. He is open. Up and out here, please, Davis Mills. Up and out. Give him a chance to make the play. And instead what you get is this low ball that you're asking Brandon Cooks to somehow adjust to. And he's got to sink his body. It's kind of behind coming here. And it creates a problem where that should be a touchdown. And whether you want to call it the receiver or the quarterback, to me, that's a quarterback issue. And you're saying, Jeremy, looks like Mills overlooks that side and brings too many defenders. Still think the wide receiver could have caught the. I mean, sure. I like I said, Brandon Cooks is a good receiver, and I guess this is my problem. And it's not to say that anybody's impervious. I mean, God, you didn't want to. Cooper Kupp makes an occasional draw. Oh, okay, you're not talking about this play. Yes, I'm going to get there, but that's one of them. But yeah, I mean, to end my point here, I understand that Cooper Kupp makes an occasional bad play, makes an occasional drop. It happens to the best of them. But to me, I'm like, Brandon Cooks is a guy that's worked with numerous quarterbacks throughout his year, continuously catching the ball, putting up 1,000 yards every year. I don't think this is indicative of him as much as it is the QB. Not the QB's fault. You're a rich kid, you're saying. Not the QB's fault. The receiver Cooks isn't athletic enough to catch. I mean, and this is my point, is that, yes, it certainly could be one play where Cooks wasn't on his game, but he's been athletic enough to catch a variety of different balls multiple years throughout his career. And I just think that I'm not telling you to, and I'll move on this in just a second. I'm not telling you that you need to ask him to do a jump ball and really arc up and catch it. But look no further, rich kid, than you're telling me it's not athletic enough to catch the ball. The ball is sinking here. You can literally see it falling. I'll give you an example. I'm not even telling you Justin Fields has this. I think he does. But Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, they laser this across on a frozen rope. It does not drop. It does not veer down. So when this ball's coming out, I mean, I'll try to skim it back just to the point. I mean, you can see, like, Brandon Cooks has to literally try to bend over to catch it. That, to me, is a bad ball. It's not the worst ball, but it's not a scenario that I think is advantageous to your receiver. Okay. And then, Jeremy, I've been telling you we're going to get to it. I think I have 25 seconds here. I think this may have been, I think it's just two plays, and this is the one. This is, again, a 2x2. So you have your 2 over here, your 2 over here, and you're running back. I think this is the one where Cooks cuts it back corner right about here, Jeremy, is what you were talking about. And it ends up going out. Or doesn't secure it, so with the feet in. So let's go ahead and show you that. I'll let it roll real time for you, and then we'll go through it. Yep, this is it. Jeremy, let me know if this is the one you were talking about. And this is like, we'll break it down here because, Jeremy, you were saying it's a good ball. It is a good ball. This is not a bad ball. It's well placed. And this is some of it too, where like maybe and I know everybody knows you want to throw it to Nico Collins there, so try it with Brandon Cooks. But you're now asking Brandon Cooks as a smaller guy to play post-up ball and secure a goal line fade and somehow come down with it. This to me is like, it's really I don't even know if I want to blame it on one guy. I just think it's a hard ask of both players. It's a good ball. Like, you can see, and I mean, God, give it credit to Cooks there. As much of as it's a good ball, look at Cooks get up to try to snag that down. He's multiple feet in the air. Yes, and Jeremy, you're right. Like, you can see the defense all go to that side because he's staring it down. Yeah, some of that's hard because you have to. I'm not trying to totally make concessions or excuses for Davis Mills here, but in a goal line fade, it's hard to look right and then just go, I exactly know the depth, the perception, the arc I have to put on the ball, and I know exactly where my receiver is to just cock back and throw it. It's not impossible, but I'd imagine it's very hard. And you're saying you just don't like the jump and body catch. Well, this is the point, Jeremy, though, is he's 5'10". Like, it's hard for him to – it's not – you're asking a big thing for Davis Mills to somehow drop it over the arc and then right into the bucket so that he doesn't have to jump. Like he's fighting for the ball, and I appreciate that. He's trying to attack the catch point to make a play, but because he has to jump because he's not the biggest guy, it puts him in a situation here where he has to leave his feet, and then he just gets pushed out. Which you can see here, it just doesn't end up working out for him. So that is the film. As I said, I would be trying to get through. About an hour to an hour and 15. That is Texans film. I will roll for the next 10 to 20 minutes on Q&A. If you have any questions, concerns, it can be about anything. Bears versus Texans, Bears versus Niners, Green Bay, schematics, personnel, team building. Hopefully what I've just showed you, though, is a few of the things that Houston likes to do. Pep Hamilton, Stingley's acumen as a rookie corner, the players that they have. Brevin Jordan, I believe, is out this week, but they do have O.J. Howard. Dameon Pierce looks like a miniature David Montgomery with his contact balance and willingness to fight for yards. Brandon Cooks, in many ways, is who Darnell Mooney wishes he could be. And I don't mean that in a condescending way, although it may sound that. It's just that Brandon Cooks is kind of the gold standard for an undersized or smaller, more diminutive receiver that's found a way to make his name in this league, regardless of scheme, coaching staff, personnel, quarterback throwing in the ball. And so I do find it rather unique that this game is very much a tale of two teams that have a lot of very similar pieces. Some ways where Dameon Pierce is certainly no David Montgomery yet. He has to prove it. Darnell Mooney, as good as he's been in Chicago, still is not even at Brandon Cooks' level. And so, you see some scenarios here where they've got a right guard in Kenyon Green who's very good at run blocking. So do the Bears and Tevin Jenkins. It's all over the field. Petrie, Jeremy, as you're talking here, do I think we attacked Stingley and Petrie? In comparison, have they been better or worse than Gordon or Brisker? See, this is a great example. It's so funny because to me, I love Jaquan Brisker, but I really love Jalen Petrie. I just may get me flamed by the 2 or 3 people that watch this, but to me, I would take Stingley and Petrie over Gordon and Brisker. The reason for that is Stingley is elite traits. I'm telling you, yes, he's too handsy and he got a penalty there, but I watched him basically nut up and go, okay, you're going to test me. Go ahead and test me, and I'll force it. I'll make you go get a field goal off of it because you're not going to score on me. And he's not going up against some small, diminutive receiver. That's Courtland Sutton, a big X receiver. So that's an example of Stingley showing an amazing talent. And so I certainly think he's better than Brisker. He was my cornerback 2 overall in the draft, or excuse me, not 2, 3. I had it as Sauce, McCreary, then Stingley. So he's my cornerback 3 in the draft. And Jalen Petrie, to me, is the modern safety, the modern overhang player, is able to play deep in coverage, but also can play that overhang, play in the nickel, be your big nickel guy. Did it for Dave Aranda at Baylor. So in my opinion, I certainly would prefer Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie. And I certainly, to answer your question, do I think we attack them? Well, I probably wouldn't, which is why I do think that they're going to try to run the ball in this game. But I certainly think Justin Fields is going to have an opportunity to lob up some balls and try to hit some seam balls on Jalen Petrie, or try to have, shot plays on Derek Stingley. And we're going to see how it goes. Where do I rank the Bears' offensive line at this time, and where will they be at the end of the season? I would say the Bears' offensive line is probably hovering around 20th to 25th in the ranks, because I don't think Sam Mustipher is anything special to write home about. I don't think Cody Whitehair is anything more than set it and forget it, steady Eddie. As much as people hate it on Charles Leno, Cody Whitehair is very much at that Charles Leno level to me. I just think he's fine. He's okay. Braxton Jones, as much as everybody wants to throw him his flowers, and he's doing okay, I don't think he's had a particularly strong 2 games thus far. Larry Borum did not look good in the last game, and it's hard to judge any offensive lineman in a monsoon for game 1. So I would say 20th to 25th, with a certain concession that I absolutely think that they will continue to gel. And where will they be at the end of the season? If it stays the same and everybody stays healthy, without any drastic changes, I wouldn't want them to to take out Larry Borum and put Riley Reif in, because Riley Reif is not your long-term answer. I would really hope and expect that with gelling, I would imagine them to be hopefully with like the rosiest colored glasses, somewhere in that 10 to 16 range of offensive linemen or offensive line groups. I don't think that they're ever going to be top 10 at the current moment in this season, just considering the talent. I mean, the reality is Tevin Jenkins is your most talented offensive lineman, and he's being asked to learn a new position, and you're swapping him out for Lucas Patrick so Lucas Patrick can get reps. So I think that they will certainly rise, but I would never imagine that at the end of the season you're going, wow, the offensive line is completely set. They don't have to do anything about it in the offseason. Jeremy, Houston doesn't have a powerful offense, but I'd like your opinion on the two defenses they face compared to our Bears. I think we'll be able to move the ball really well. Is that overly optimistic? I don't. Real quick, Jeremy, I guess you can clarify. You're saying that you think, based on the two defenses that they faced, you think the Bears will be able to move the ball really well against the Texans defense. Is that correct? If so, just say correct. I guess I'll give my take, assuming that that's the case. Call me crazy or overly optimistic. I do think that the Chicago Bears will be able to move the ball very well against the Texans. And to answer your question about like who have they faced, Houston doesn't have a powerful offense, but I like it. Okay. The two deep. Well, they face the Broncos, which they're a talented defense, but I also think that they are very much learning how to play in a Giro Evero's scheme. And it's not that it's so different from what Fangio did, but they have new pieces where Justin Simmons is still there, Kareem Jackson's still there, Pat Surtain's there, but you've got Ronald Darby. There's no Kyle Fuller there. There's no Bryce Callahan. So you've got a few other pieces there. But Bradley Chubb's back. Baron Browning looks good off the edge. So I think that it is a very good defense. And then the Texans played – God, why is my mind blanking at the moment? Who did they play in week one? Oh, they played the Colts. The Colts defense to me is I actually think that they were able to get a tie on the Colts because the Colts defense right now looks so basic with Gus Bradley running just cover three consistently. And they literally got 2 touchdown plays to O.J. Howard on the exact same play. The exact same play on the seam beater that works against cover three. So I think that, as you said, they don't have an overly powerful offense, but I think that they've done enough. And this is why I think this game's so interesting to have Lovie come back to Chicago. The reason that they were able to, you're saying you don't think Houston's faced a really good defense. No, I don't think that they faced a really good defense, but I think Denver's better than what they showed. And this is really the Lovie situation. I think what's so interesting is this is what the Bears should be trying to achieve. This is why I think Eberflus was hired. The basement goal here for this team is that it should always be competitive. It doesn't matter really who you're playing. Your defense should be able to mostly contain an offense and then ask your offense that may not be so powerful to make a few plays to lift it above. And that's exactly, Jeremy, how I feel about the Houston offense. It's not overly powerful. But Lovie and that defense has done enough to keep them in games, and then they were able to tie against the Colts and barely lose to a middling offense of the Broncos at the moment. So I hope that answers your question. Bears are number 1 in wins. Okay, Chubbs. 88% pass block win rate. League average are 66. Bears have 3 players in the top 6 in their positions. I don't know where you're getting the stats from, probably PFF. That's fine. If Jalen Johnson doesn't play, how does that change things? I certainly think it's a good question, Tareen. Jalen Johnson, to me, would absolutely lock up Nico Collins, no question about it. And if he doesn't play, I think Nico Collins can have some jump balls that he wins, some 50-50 balls. And I guess that's a real concern. And maybe I'm just being too rosy in my outlook, but I'm not too concerned that Jalen Johnson doesn't play. Very curious how much Fields running around, and then completing a pass is 4%. Yeah, I mean, who knows, Jeremy? You said you think our defense is much better than who they faced. That's a that's a good question, Jeremy. I'm like, is it? We are allowed to disagree, Jeremy. I think that the Denver defense is much, a few more muches more talented than the Chicago defense. I don't think that they played like it, but I mean, look, the Denver Broncos defense did enough to hold them back and force the Texans to not be able to win that. And I don't even think the Colts defense is not – I think the Colts defense is much more talented than the Bears defense. I just think that they are running an incredibly predictable scheme that is costing them early, and their offense isn't producing in Indianapolis. So it's not that I think our defense is horrendous. I just think that credit to the Texans, they've been able to stay in games. And so to your question of like, how is this defense going to fare? I think Eberflus is more sophisticated than Lovie, and I think that this defense will create problems for the Houston offense. And this is where I'm saying it may sound like I'm very inconsistent because when I consider that the Bears are going to win big, but I'm telling you the Houston Texans stay in games and they play tight D and all this. But so, yeah, I think that the Bears defense will cause problems for the Texans, but I don't think it's going to be some shellacking where the offense of the Texans can't put up 17, 20 points, something like that. King Pook, you're saying the Bears will regret not drafting George Pickens. I mean, sure, maybe. It's 2 weeks in. We got to see. So, and I know it's 3 weeks for the Steelers at this point. You were all about Pickens, would have drafted him with the first pick. Yeah, I think it's easy to say on talent, but there's no question or there's no knowing who he is behind closed doors and his attitude. Your issue with not taking wide receiver in this draft is the amount of time it takes for them to be a good starter. Why wait on the process when Jeremy, to me, that was why I said it on Bear Debate earlier this week. I think that corners are important, and so are safeties. You will be hard-pressed to find a person that supports the idea and value of safeties more than me. But as far as receivers, and I know there's so many people that want the Bears to draft a receiver in the first round next year. I wouldn't touch a receiver in the first round. It's not that you can't get, a Jamar Chase or a Devontae Smith or a Justin Jefferson or Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, but to me, I can't help but look at those and say, go back and look at all of the different receivers that are taken in the first round and how many don't pan out when you consider the second round receivers that did. DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp was a third rounder. Pickens was a second rounder, Sky Moore second round. You can get so many good players in the second round. And to me, a guy like Cedric Tillman is a guy that probably is fringe first to second. That would be the guy that I'd be looking at. And yeah, you're saying, I love both. Yeah, that's the truth too, Jeremy. Yes, I would have preferred Pierce because I actually think Pierce is more raw than Pickens by a lot right now. But I also didn't have there was no character questions. And he was still just as athletic and can jump out the gym and all that. But Pickens is clearly very talented. And there's questions about his character, though. Ravi, you were saying you got sidetracked and your ass kicked in Madden. Well, sorry you got beat. Last thing the Bears need now is a rookie wideout that's a diva like Pickens. At this point, it seems like signing that receiver is more likely and will be more effective sooner. I don't know, Jeremy. To me, this is kind of where I have a lot of hope and I'm happy about the Bears in a lot of ways. But if there's an area I get frustrated in is it feels like you have made your bed. You now need to lay in it. You decided that Equanimeous St. Brown and Dante Pettis and N'Keal Harry were going to be your guys. So you can go try to bring in Will Fuller or whatever, but Will Fuller has to not only learn the plays, but then get some rapport with Fields. I don't think that that's as easy done as it is said. Renewable can draft or get a wide free agent or receiver next offseason. Having a good wide receiver doesn't matter if the O-line sucks or the ball is sticking in the QB's hands. Yeah, this is why football is so great, is it's complex and there's a lot of different issues. Bears need to invest in offensive line, wide receiver, and D-tackle heavy. If they do get a top 5 pick and they were able to get Jalen Carter, I don't know if you'd find any complaints from me. Jalen Carter, to me, is one of the cleanest prospects to come out in a while. And it's just, Greg Gabriel likes to joke, our resident scout here on the network, that they got very lucky in their draft, that they were like 12th or 13th pick. and they were able to get the top defensive tackle on the board because so many other players went before. And I don't think that's going to happen with Jalen Carter, but it would be such like a storybook writing if the Bears, and I guess the Bears would still get a lot of shit. Oh my God, they took a D tackle instead of helping Justin Fields, but it would be such a storybook written ending per se if they got to the draft next year and they picked 5, 6, or 7 or whatever, and they were able to snag Jalen Carter as their 3-tech. And the reason I say is because 3-techs are not, I don't want to say that they're so rare, but they aren't plentiful. To get a true 3-tech, I'm not talking 4-eye, I'm not talking 5 technique that you're asking to play 3-tech. To get a guy that truly is explosive and dominant and can wreck the backside of plays at 3-tech and an underfront is hard to find. And if they were able to get Jalen Carter, I'd be elated. Jeremy, you're saying who's the next best 3-tech after Carter? Brian Bursey is okay. He's from Clemson. I don't want to say okay. He's a good player, and he's got more size. He's a big dude. So Brian Bursey out of Clemson. Miles Murphy out of Clemson is a unique one. He is very much built like that DeForest Buckner, but he's lighter. Gonna need to put on weight and muscle. Yancey, gosh, what is his name? Pittsburgh defensive tackle. I want to say he wears number 0. Let me see. Can't see Pitt. He'd be like a more mid-round guy that I'd like. Kalijah Cansey, D tackle Pitt. He's a smaller one though, so I'm not sure he would be totally seen. He's like a 6'1" guy, and Eberflus is, at least with Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner, one of these tall guys, which is why I was so high on Logan Hall. Cornelius, you're saying the way EQ and Pringle block, they'll be the steal of free agency at the end of the season. That Bursey guy doesn't look like a 3-tech. He's huge, but he looks like he lumbers. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. He can be a 3-tech. I want to be clear. He can do it, but to me, he's much more of a 5 technique in the build of Cam Hayward or, I'm trying to think of another 5-tech that I can think of. Christian Wilkins kind of in that role, if that makes sense. So, yep. All right. Well, I'll give everybody like a final minute or two if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything for me. Other than that, it's been almost an hour and a half now at this point. I really appreciate everybody for sticking around. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you found this insightful, enjoyable, educational, all that good stuff. If you like the content, please give it a thumbs up, like it, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, give follows to Barroom, Aldo Gundia, our president here at Barroom Network, Jordan T. Silveira, and myself, all on Twitter. Repost this, share it with your friends if you liked it. If you didn't, don't do anything at all. That's totally fine too. Robbie, you're saying Keyshawn Boutte, wide receiver LSU. Yeah, he's had a hard year, but I mean, he's still some talent there. And then Renewable, you're saying is Jalen Carter similar to Warren Sapp. Yeah, I mean, very explosive and like Warren Sapp. If you're looking for a good time, Renewable, just watch Jalen Carter highlights, and you'll see he's an amazing prospect. Looks really good. It's what's telling is that Jalen Carter, by many scouts' eyes, was the most talented defensive lineman on that Georgia front last year, with the number 1 overall Trayvon pick and Trayvon Walker, Devontae Wyatt, the most talented player on that defense. So, yeah. I don't know who Bonesaw is, Robbie, but I appreciate it. And Cornelius, thank you so much. I appreciate you tuning in. Everybody, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Saturday evening, whether you're watching college football or whatever fights are on. Go get some good food, spend time with family, and enjoy the Bears content tomorrow. As for Barroom Network content, I'll be on at 7 in the morning Pacific for Barroom Tailgate. You have Mike North before that. I think that may be 6 a.m. Pacific for Mike North. And then after that, you have the Fantasy Football Goon, where you can get all your fantasy opinions and takes from Joe Mandel and the team there. After that, we have Bear Football during halftime of the Bears-Texans game with Tyler Ellis, Danny Shimon, and John Buffone. And then you'll have Bear Football, the post-game show with John Buffone, Danny Shimon, and Tyler Ellis. Other than that, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I will see you next time. And until then, bear down.